Good morning, friends. Having some coffee. It's very early. It is Monday morning and the weather is horrible. We do have another storm heading towards Florida, which is just terrible. And my son is homesick. It's just an all around bad Monday, but we're going to try to make it a little bit better. It's very early, so I'm being super quiet so everybody can sleep. Today I wanted to just make really comforting stuff, like just something to make us all feel a little bit better, a little bit happier. So we're gonna make some from scratch pumpkin pie. I am using the Libby's pumpkin pie because I do not have pumpkins growing. I wish, but those spread out too far. I don't have the space. At least I haven't attempted it yet. Let me say that. So I'm enjoying some coffee and figuring out how I'm going to do this quietly so everybody can sleep a little bit. But yeah, we're going to make some really delicious pumpkin pie, and I would love it if you guys joined me in the kitchen today. It's going to be a great day. So friends, one of the things I want to do before I get started on the pie is unveil our sweet potatoes. Let me give you a peek of what these guys look like. They've been under their cover, kind of curing in this back room for about 2 weeks now. So let me turn this around right there. Look at that, they look perfect. So these skins have gotten hard over the past few weeks, couple weeks or so, and they are going to be able to store for a long period of time now. In order to store the sweet potatoes, you need them to have good airflow. So I picked up these kind of like, I think Walmart sold them as file crates, but they are essentially milk crates, right? They have holes along the bottom, on all sides, and I'm just going to arrange these guys in here so that they have really good airflow. Put these really big guys down here like that. So all I'm doing is placing them in here. Just kind of in an orderly fashion. So I have one sweet potato that did not get the memo, and it's starting to kind of put on chits. So we're gonna pop that off. And I'm gonna set this one aside. I might cook this later. For the smaller ones, I have a smaller version that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. And that's gonna work out perfect for like these little guys.
All right, friends, so we're going to start working on our pie crust. I am starting with 1.25 cups of all-purpose flour, and to that I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then a full teaspoon of sugar. And then the most important part is to cut up some frozen butter. Now I always keep my butter in sticks, kind of like you would get at the store, only I freeze it because I like to make a lot of butter, and butter freezes really, really well. And it always works out when you're trying to make like biscuits or like a pie crust to keep it frozen. And you want to chop it up into very small pieces. Like I left these a little bit larger than I would like to, and I ended up having to break them up a lot with my hands. I know a lot of people grate it into the flour, But if you just chop it up into small pieces, it's perfectly fine. Then you're going to add that into your flour and sugar and salt mixture and just kind of incorporate it. As your hand is kind of kneading through that butter, it starts to melt it slightly and makes it a little bit easier to work with. And you can actually start like blending it into that flour really well. Once I start getting it blended in really well, I start adding a little bit of water, just refrigerator water, kind of cold water for us. I do use a filtered water, but you want to go ahead and start adding it just a little bit at a time, just kneading at that butter and flour mixture until it starts to come together. And that's when you know you've added enough water, depending on humidity, depends on how much water you're going to need. So there's no exact measurement. You just have to let it like come together into a ball the way that it's coming together for me there. And once that's done, you're just going to put it out onto the surface and kind of work it until it becomes like one whole dough. It's still going to be a little bit shaggy, but that's perfectly fine. And then I place that into a Ziploc bag. I love Ziploc bags for this, they work really well. And into the fridge for about 1 hour. After that, you can start working on rolling it out and using it for your pie crust, either overnight or minimum 1 hour rest time in the fridge.
Okay, friends, so we've got all the ingredients that we need on the table here to make this pie. Our pie crust has been resting for like about an hour while I was getting ready for the day, and we are good to go now, except for my pumpkin pie spice coffee because I'm drinking that. That's not part of the pie. Anyways, but it's pumpkin pie everything day apparently. So I've got my bowl. And we are going to get started. Actually, I need to get a can opener. And then we can get started. So, I'm going to start with a 15-ounce can of pumpkin, pure pumpkin. So this is not a pumpkin pie mix. Sometimes you'll see this exact same brand and can, but it'll show a pumpkin pie mix. And that means it's had a few things already added to it. I was trying to use the whisk for that, it didn't work. Tiny spatula to save the day. So, get all the pumpkin out of here, every last drop. Let that loosen up. I'm gonna add to it 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. Now I use an organic cane sugar. If you have white sugar, that's fine. What you don't want to add is a brown sugar, because that's gonna give it a very molasses flavor. And we're going for the pumpkin here. Okay, and then we need to add a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. Don't forget to shake the milk. Shake it well. Okay. Close enough. And let's get that in there. Okay, to this we're gonna add 2 eggs, and I'm gonna crack them into this 3/4 cup measure, just because you know that you should be cracking the eggs and adding them in one at a time. Even if they're store-bought, you just don't know. You can never be 100% sure. Now there's a secret to like checking if your eggs are good or not. by floating them in a cup of water. So you would take a long cup of water, a tall cup, fill it with water, put your egg carefully into it. If it sinks, it's good. If it floats, it's bad. If it hovers somewhere in the middle, right away. You need to consume that right away because it's about to go bad. So there is a way to know for sure if you doubt your eggs, but if you're getting them store-bought, still just crack them one at a time. Better safe than sorry. Okay, to this I'm going to add just a splash, like the tiniest little splash of vanilla. We're going to go in with half a teaspoon of salt. And then I make my own pumpkin spice blend. It's cinnamon, ginger, cloves, nutmeg, and a touch of allspice. I'm gonna do 2 teaspoons of that. I think that's what's left in here. Yeah, I'll make more. Okay. If you're not that big of a fan of the pumpkin pie spice, leave it out altogether and only add the ones that you like. Cinnamon, if you don't like cloves, if you don't like, I mean, honestly, I'm not a big fan of cloves. And I appreciate their presence in the pumpkin pie spice, but it's not my favorite. So sometimes I will put very little, I adjust it to my taste. I will add very little cloves, very little allspice. I find them to be too aggressive of a flavor. So that's kind of why I make my own blend. It's mostly cinnamon. Oh my god. Oh, that smells so good. Oh, I love it. Okay, so I'm gonna clear this out, set this guy aside over here, and let's roll out the pie crust. Okay, so for the pie crust, I'm just gonna dust a little bit of flour, not too much, on here. And there's our pie crust. It's super cold, which is what you want. That's how you end up with a flaky crust. A little bit of flour on the top and on our rolling pin. And then here we go. This is gonna be something I gotta work at because it is very solid. But the trick to this, to get it to not stick, is to move it around constantly. So you're going to be moving your flour underneath it, on the top. Whenever you roll, make a half turn. Again, half turn. And that ensures that you're constantly moving your pie, your crust, and that it's not sticking to the board, because there's nothing worse than getting it to the perfect thickness and then you go to pick it up and it's all stuck to your work surface. Okay, so to test and see if this is enough, I just like to set my pie dish on the top and then kind of fold along the edges. So I still need to roll just a tiny bit more, but not too much. Okay, so there's a few ways you can roll your pie crust on onto your pan. So one way is to take your rolling pin and roll it up on here and then roll it onto the pan. And it works, but when your pie crust is nice and hard and cold like this, fold it in half, gently pick it up, place it into your pan, and then you just unfold it in there. And that's it, that's all you have to do. And then again, when it comes to your pie crust and fitting it into the pan, don't stretch it. Just kind of lift from this edge and place it down into the corners. You don't want to be stretching it because that just kind of creates a tough crust and it's not flaky. and that it gives it's bad mouth feel. So just pick it up, press it lightly into the corners, and then that's it. So where you have like a break here that it doesn't meet, just push it together. Perfect. This is a very perfect crust. It's one of the best I've made in a while, so I'm happy with that. So now all I'm gonna do is take a paring knife and just run it along the edge. You could flute this if you wanted to. I'm not going to. So by fluting, what I mean is when you take your two fingers and you press it together. I don't necessarily love that. Now, I'm not a person who adores crust. Like the crust is just there to hold my pie together, you know? If you love the flavor of the pie crust, by all means, like if that's your thing, like you eat the pie because you love the crust, go for it. I support you 100%. Okay, we're gonna set that aside. Let me see something. Just being childish over here. Okay, I'm gonna leave that there. I might fiddle with that. Perfect. So we're gonna stir this up one more time and then pour it into our pie crust. Want to make sure we get everything in there. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be so good. Okay, so this is gonna go just like this. I'm gonna put it on a sheet tray and pop it into the oven. I have my oven set at 425 degrees. That is preheated already, and it's gonna bake at 425 for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I'm gonna knock down the temperature to 350 degrees, and we're gonna bake it for another 40 minutes. So let's get this guy into the oven. All right, friends, so I have these pumpkin cookie cutters I got years ago off of Amazon, and like some of them have like the insert for like a fluted kind of like a pumpkin pasty. I think I've made them before with you guys. So I want to see if I can use like the bits of this crust and make a couple of these guys. Oh, they're so cute. Kind of to decorate the top of the pie. Do a couple big ones. Oh no. So all I did for this was take the like excess that I cut off from the pie, rolled it back out again, and I'm using a cookie cutter to cut these guys out. I'm sure if you don't have any cookie cutters, you could use just the same paring knife and cut like leaf decorations. We're gonna see. One more big one. And then we'll put these guys on the parchment. They don't have to be perfect. At the end of the day, they may not even go on the pie, but I'm gonna give it a try. Okay. So this is how I am with everything. Like I'll stop and look at it and say, why is that waste? There's something I can do with this. There has to be. So here I am doing something with the excess. Okay, little brush. Oh, I'm gonna sprinkle them with some sugar. so they get a little bit of a sheen. They'll be so cute. Now, I'm not going to pop these in the oven right this second because that oven is at 425. And I think that might be a little bit too warm. So, I'll wait till I drop it back to 350 and then I'll put it in there. Find something else to do with that as well. Okay, let's grab some sugar. All right, so just a little sprinkle on each one. It'll give it a nice shine and a little bit of sweetness. And I think these days we all need a little bit of sweetness. Okay, so those are gonna go into the oven at 350 once I knock back the temperature. In the meantime, I'm gonna clean up and get this kitchen back in order. So friends, our pie is done baking. I took it out of the oven about 20 minutes ago. It did bake for a full 45 minutes at 350 and then 15 minutes at the beginning. So I started it at 425, put it in there for 15 minutes, and then I dropped the temperature down to 350 and I baked it for another 45 minutes. My little pumpkins, look at how cute they are. So those guys baked for about 15 minutes at 350, and then I had a tiny crack in the pie there. Like right where they're at, there's a tiny crack. So I just covered it with the little pumpkins and it looks cute, like a perfect decoration. So no issues, everything's great. We're gonna pop this pie into the fridge and we're gonna let it cool for a few hours, minimum of 4 hours. It's 9:30 in the morning now and I'm hoping to have this pie with dinner tonight. So that'll be our dessert, a little slice of comfort with all the craziness that's going on right now. I think we could all use it. So friends, we'll see you a little bit later on. I'm gonna cut into this pie and I'm gonna show you exactly how beautiful it looks.